We go way back.
We do.
Well, it wasn't Killer Creamery.
Wasn't anything.
It wasn't anything. It was just a company. So why don't you tell us a little bit about the product specifically? Like what makes Killer Creamery different?
Yeah, so really what makes us different, especially right now, is the quality, the taste and texture that we're bringing to this better for you category. So at the end of the day, we're a no sugar ice cream that tastes good. It's as simple as that. And we're trying to bring some fun to it. You know, it's a little bit of a Ben and Jerry's of the better for you ice creams. And we're trying to make ice cream not just better for you, but great for you. So what we have right now, we have this new formula rolling into market that is sweetened with allulose. It's a brand new sugar substitute. So it's really helping with the freezing point of the ice cream, so you can actually scoop into it. It's the kind of the problem that plagues our old product and the category in general. So we're bringing innovation, we're bringing fun, and really just trying to make ice cream great.
And I mean, you have a ton of flavors. I don't know, is this all the flavors? Or
We got one additional one.
One additional flavors.
Yeah.
I mean, so out of the gate to start, or relatively soon to start with that many flavors is really something too, I imagine.
Yeah, definitely trying to keep it simple.
Yeah.
It's really easy to kind of, especially me as a food scientist, I want to get out there and just make, 50 different flavors. But realistically, I mean, I can't warehouse that much. I can't put that much in my co-packer.
I definitely want to get into all those logistics and like learning about that part of the business.
Sure.
But like, just as a founder, you're a small team. I know you've broken past the 7-figure mark in sales. So do you feel like you've made it?
Oh, not even close. No, I still feel like I'm faking it, absolutely. But yeah, we got past the 7-figure mark. I hear like the 6-figure, 500,000 is tough enough to get to. So got past that hurdle. We're in the 6 figures now. But yeah, I still feel like we have so far to go before I'd ever feel comfortable. And that's probably never going to change. Even when we get to 100 million, I'll still feel like we still have so much more to do.
Well, there's always plates in the air, I imagine.
Oh yeah. Yeah, constantly juggling.
Yeah, and so what did you do today? Like, what was a day in the life for you?
Well, these days it seems like my days are very focused on raising capital for the company to execute on everything that we want to do going forward. So trying to make sure we don't go bankrupt and can provide the capital to pay not only my few employees, but to keep this train going, because we have so much opportunity and so many advantages kind of stacked with us. Yeah. Just trying to tell that story and get it out there. That seems to be a never-ending battle since day one, since I met you when we first started this company, is capitalizing, telling the story properly and getting people involved at the right time. Yeah. That's a big part of this whole thing. So yeah, my day was pitch decks, kind of preparing for this next round. We're talking about coming to a Series A, so we're planning that side of things. And of course we have stuff going on right now where we're trying to finish out a seed round. So that alone takes a lot of time. Then there's the day-to-day stuff. So literally paying the bills, managing money, just controlling the team. And my team's tiny. I mean, I have one person in marketing, one person in operations, and an outsourced sales team right now. That's it. So it's really three of us full time.
But you imagine you still have to communicate with most of those people today or this week, right?
Daily, yeah.
Daily,
absolutely.
Yeah. So I mean, there's still a lot to juggle.
Oh yeah.
So you, not to get obsessed with the 7-figure thing, but so you broke through this barrier.
Yep.
And now, I mean, knowing what you know now, you mentioned you're a food scientist. You broke through this barrier. Do you think you were focused on the right things? Did the things that worried you back in the day are those the things that worry you now?
Yeah, it really kind of is. So food science background, yeah, I get the food industry. I understand how to scale products, and that side doesn't scare me at all. And that's probably been the easier part of our business and how we've got here to today. But really the things that I knew were going to be a struggle were raising capital, really, and the sales and marketing side of things. So I'm not a marketing mind by any means. And that's definitely a place that we're putting all our energy now, is how do we have all this ice cream out there in 2,300 stores right now.
Wow.
But it's almost easy to get into the stores in a way. I mean, sure, it's hard, but how do you get people to discover your product and start pulling off the shelves, keep those retailers happy? That's the hard part. And that is money, that's marketing, that's sales, like those three things.
Where's the money go in that leg? Like, where will you be spending that money to make those retailers happy?
Well, we have a couple things. So with the retailers, it's a lot of the traditional type of marketing that you kind of have to do, TPRs, just on-shelf promotion. Yeah. So that's almost a necessity. Some people get away with not doing it, but that would be a tough route to go. But it's really discovery, especially during COVID right now. How do we get people to go find our product at stores? So I'm sure we have this great product. We think it's the best in the category, and I'm very confident it is. But I mean, if Jeff goes out there in a whole new store, are you spending much time in the frozen aisle just looking around saying, what do I want to try today?
Yeah,
Probably going to go to your old brands that you love and already know and respect.
Yeah, and in fact, it's funny because I remember buying it in the early days at Winco.
Yeah.
And you still had to kind of look for it because it would be on top shelf, and sometimes if one or two were sold, it was set back,
Yep.
and you'd have to go hunting for it. And now I was in the co-op looking for it.
Yeah.
And there's just so many that are now all in the same sizes and all these things. It's a crowded shelf. So I just want to go back to this idea because what I heard you say was you knew you were going to be able to scale the product, sort of, the science of it.
Yep.
You thought you could get into the stores. Now, I don't think a lot of food founders think it's really hard. And you said that's sort of the easy part, or relatively
Yes and no,
easy
yeah,
part.
exactly.
So talk us through what that looked like for you.
So you would think Boise is a great place to have a food company for a couple of reasons. I mean, there's Winco Foods headquartered here. Albertsons, obviously the juggernaut. They're the number 2 conventional retailer in the United States, and they just IPO'd, all that type of stuff. So they've been amazing with us, but it was not by any means simple for me to get into the store. So even though I'm local, it's not like I can go knock on the door and say, hey, I'd love to get into all your regions, because they're decentralized. You have to go to every region of Albertsons to get into those stores. So I literally got into 2 of the regions by just cold calling them. Somehow I got a name and a number, and I found the buyer and just bugged them enough that I got meetings.
I remember that. I remember those days when you were
Yep.
it was like, what are you doing? I'm hassling the buyer.
Yeah, just get on the horn any way possible. And that's my advice to anybody else, is you just got to get out there and hustle. Nobody's going to hold your hand through the process. And if you get that handhold, then great, take advantage of it, but it's not going to happen. And eventually I did work my way into finally meeting people at the corporate level that could help introduce me to the right buyers in certain categories. And that friendly introduction, of course, makes it much simpler to go sell your product versus the cold call just knocking on the door.
But what was the time frame? Like, can you walk us through from your first PO? Was your first PO with Albertsons, or you were selling through the co-op or something?
So yeah, first started with co-op.
Yeah, I remember
that was my
that.
very first grocery store. Then Rosar's, which ended up shutting down.
That's
They were a decent-sized food chain. So
That's
that was
right.
like my first kind of big paperwork
That's what
experience.
I remember. Yeah.
So we did pretty well there. Then Winco was next, and Winco is a fairly simple process. That was a kind of nice introduction. In those days too, we did all our own deliveries, merchandised it ourselves. So I was at the stores every 72 hours checking. And we eventually, the following year after that, we were driving product into Utah with our frozen delivery van. I mean, a lot of sleepless nights and craziness, making sure those shelves were stocked. And that lesson's been something I've had to carry forward going into this thing as we scale, is I'm not hands-on anymore at the stores. So we've had to spend quite a bit of money, and I wish I would have done it earlier too with merchandising groups. So you have brokers, yes, you're on shelf, and you have distributors putting product out there, but you can get third-party merchandisers to go make sure that everything's executed properly. Are you on sale? Or is your marketing effective? Like, you can push something out there, but if you're in a region with 350 stores, like, is every store doing the right thing? Is half of it wrong? Are you just spending the money and not getting the execution on shelf?
Is the freezer at the right temperature?
Exactly. Those are all the things that you just don't have the control over. So,
and I think most people think that sort of, at least this is my perception, they think, I'm going to go to Albertsons. And Albertsons, I think, it has been great with local companies.
Yes, they definitely have.
And as part of Trail Mix here at Trailhead and all those things. But I think most founders think they're going to get a PO, or they probably don't even think they're going to get a PO. They probably think they're going to say, yeah, we'll take 70 pallets. Woo! And then you hand it off and you walk away.
Yep.
And what you just said is it's quite the opposite.
Oh, yeah.
It's like almost running another business on top of the business that you're running to get into Albertsons or whoever in the first place.
Yep, and you got to perform right out of the gates. There's no time frame where they say, okay, I will give you a couple years to figure this out. They want you to perform, because those categories are tight and they're competitive. No matter what you're doing, there's going to be competition there. So getting on the shelf is, like I say, kind of the easier part if you have the right product, the right story, and the category fit, of course. This was very much a growing category. No sugar products are going nuts right now. And it's the whole reason why we're in the space and having success, because we're innovating this space and continuing to grow. But yeah, you get in a category that's hot, and you still have to be performing, because competition is coming.
Right.
Absolutely.
So again, I'm hearing, okay, food scientist knows what the heck he's doing, right? That's a rarity, or at least not that common. Entrepreneurial, gutsy hustle. You create these products, you're willing to run the business, and then you to get into these stores. How long did it take? What was the time frame from those early days to feeling like you even kind of caught momentum?
I would say last year is really where I felt like we caught momentum, because...
Wait, how far in was last year?
So we really started in 2016. I created the LLC and started Killer Whey, so the protein-focused no-sugar ice cream.
Yep.
And 2018 is really where we launched our keto version, so keto-specific, and stopped focusing on the protein but more the fat. And that was, as soon as we put that in the market, it was the obvious thing that we wanted to do. So That was 2018, and we're only in like 30 stores in 2018. And then last year, 2019, we ended up the year in about 900 to 1,000 stores. And that's where I felt like, okay, we're in a bunch of stores. I'm having a hard time just conceptualizing what's happening out here.
Right.
You need to get control of this thing. And this year, more than doubled that. So yeah, I feel like we're out there making moves and playing the game now, like at a true level.
But yet, the success brings other squeezes.
Oh yeah,
Capital squeeze, like we've talked about. We don't need to beat up. We'll get into that a little bit later.
sure.
Time squeeze, I imagine. Talent squeeze, all these things, right?
Yeah.
So what advice would you give to new founders or early founders who are sort of either dreaming of this or in that early stage? They're in month 6 right now,
Yeah.
and they're going, "Oh my God, this is so hard."
Yeah.
And you're telling me it's going to be 2.5 years if you get the right product at the right time and you have all these.
Yeah,
other
exactly. So it seems like a blink of an eye to me, but it's been years, I guess, since I kind of started this thing. But yeah, I mean, there's no one path to do this whole route. That's for sure. Mine's unique. Everybody else is going to be unique, but you got to take the leap. I mean, that's the only way to do it. I think people get kind of stuck on what's the clear pathway to kind of make this all happen. And what you got to do is get out there and network and hustle and meet as many people and try to get good people involved with you, whether they're literally hired by you or just an advisor. That's been the biggest kind of successes for me, is just getting people with knowledge in the spots where I think I don't have it and really leaning on them and listening, and I think just being a good person and hoping that people want to help out. And so far it's been a good thing. And it's ice cream, so I mean,
it's pretty. I mean, it could be worse.
It could be worse.
But you say all that as if like all these other people did it. But I know you and your wife. I mean, I remember when you bought the bike.
Oh yeah.
Do you still have the bike?
That's how we started. I just sold it this year.
Did you? A bike that you could wheel around to events.
Yep.
With a freezer in the front and sell ice cream or do demos out of it.
Yep.
And all I'm trying to get at is there was a lot of grassroots hustle.
Oh yeah, big time. So yeah, I mean, every weekend we did the farmers markets for 2 years. So from April to October, every single weekend was tied up between me and my wife.
Yeah.
And we had our first child through that process too. So we're dragging this little infant around to all these events, and I mean, huge events, small events, all the farmers markets. So literally all our free time was tied up with that. My wife has a full-time job, still does, and had back then. She was really kind of paying the bills. I'm still not technically paying myself.
Yeah.
But we're at their creamery scooping ice cream late at nights. We're putting labels on products at all waking hours. So there's definitely a huge part of hustle. That's the whole story. Really.
And credit to Liz. Right?
Oh, big time. Yeah, I
That's
can't believe
your wife.
She's a patient lady.
Patient lady, and I mean the reality is she's like the biggest investor. I mean, in terms of every way, really.
Absolutely. Yeah, this is not possible without my wife. Definitely.
And
Absolutely.
What do you think it took? I mean, not to get like insanely personal on it, but to get her on board on this. I mean, did she know what she was getting into?
I would say there's a thread of her not knowing what she's getting into, but I mean, probably my passion and like understanding that I'm gonna, work my ass off with this whole thing, and I'm not gonna quit. That's really, I think she saw that from the beginning and saw that I had an opportunity, and she's seen the growth of this thing too. If we're just, still stuck in 30 stores and I'm talking about my IPO next year or something like that, it might be a different story. But
I mean,
but we are incrementally growing. There's a visible thing happening here, so it's very easy to kind of, I think, get on board with that.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, it's nice that you get to see that because a lot of people don't. I mean, a lot of people, it's really unclear, So it's, I'd say even your story, as hard as it's been, and it's still in the middle, has been relatively smooth compared to what a lot of people.
Yeah. So I guess in a way you can kind of say it's smooth, but man, it feels like pain the whole time. I can tell you that much.
That's fair. I mean, it's like when you zoom out, it looks smoother. But it's like the stock market,
If you had to paint a path, we're on a decent path this whole thing. I can't deny that, but yeah, it's been, so much hustle to get this to where it's at, and that's my lifestyle. That's how I grew up. That's all. I was surrounded by entrepreneurs, constantly hustling. So I've always had that mentality and worked hard my whole life. So it's just kind of the norm.
What would, I guess, that'd be 4 years ago? We'll call it 4 years.
4 years ago.
What would 4 years ago Louis be surprised about today's Louis?
Is this kind of like what would I ask myself kind of back in the day, or what direction would I give myself?
What did you learn? What would be surprised looking from back then to now? What would be surprising about now?
The biggest thing is still the capital side, like what it actually takes to fund, especially if you're going off high growth in grocery stores. My original plan was kind of on paper you're supposed to, especially in these kind of natural products like better for you foods, you're supposed to get into Whole Foods, start off, build a brand in natural channel. But my path was much different. I kind of had big conventional stores just jump onto this thing. So I had the opportunity. Timing is a big part of this thing. I think I had to go at the time that I did.
Yep.
So that brought in a whole different level of challenges and really put the pressure on fundraising. So that was the biggest struggle with this whole thing is trying to have enough funds to capitalize on something that I knew was just so obvious to me. But
Yeah, well, why is it hard to raise money?
I would say a couple different things. So Boise is not necessarily the best place to raise money. It's just, there's specific food towns almost that have food funds and just a lot more happening in those spaces. Hopefully that kind of changes here, and hopefully that I can be a catalyst to some of that and come back someday and foster some of that. And Albertsons is doing some good things in that space, and hopefully there's more and more people that kind of continue to foster that. But that's a big part of it. I should have went broader sooner and very specific. I should have got very specific sooner too. So not only just investors or angels or anything like that, but people that actually have experience in the space, like super target those types of people and networking events and just lead down that route.
And so with sort of the idea that the people who invest in this stuff are the people who understand the stuff, or at least the best investors.
Yeah, so friends and family obviously was part of my my fundraising, but yeah, beyond that, it's people that understand it a little bit at least.
Yeah.
Or in the space to kind of take
that was always a category for me.
Yeah.
It's just it's such a complicated business.
It is, yeah.
We kind of stopped, when we were talking about the logistics, but you have distributor, you have the buyer, you have distributors, all the couponing companies, all this stuff, right?
Absolutely.
It's very complex.
Yeah, the food world is not necessarily the sexiest place to invest. I mean, you see all the stuff happening in tech and all the multiples and all that type of stuff. And there's more of an energy here for tech, of course, but it's just food is more difficult. It just costs so much more to get the ball rolling, essentially. So it's just is what it is. You need people with an appetite for that understand that space with at least consumables or packaged goods, something like that. So you got to find those people real quick.
Yeah, real quick. And what do you think founders then get? Is that beyond that? What do founders get wrong about fundraising, specifically around food?
I think just telling the right story. There's like certain stages of this business and the reason why people would get involved in your fundraising round. So, I don't know, just telling it as real as possible, kind of where you're at, why this is a good opportunity right now. Storytelling has probably been the place where I could have focused more time on, and just telling the right story to get the capital going, to take it to the next level, and ultimately the people that came in early would benefit from that too.
Yeah.
So
tell me about telling the right story. What does that mean? And you said two things in there. You said telling the right stories and being open, or I think you said being open about where you're at.
It's pretty easy to set up a pitch deck and say, I'm going to be at 100 million sales in 5 years, and I've had some old ones like that too. But right now I'm so much more focused on what I have today and what's very, very tangible stuff going forward, and why now is a good time to invest, because we truly see the legs to get to a $30 million valuation, $50 million valuation in 2 years, 1 year, everything like that. So and part of this is you just have to kind of take those steps to even get to those kinds of conversations. Like I can't just paint that from day one. And if you do, I mean, a lot of people just think you're kind of crazy. So,
well, and it also is you have to be honest about your business. Like you have to get to know your business well enough to talk.
Got to get to know your business. You got to get to know your investors, and that's been one of the biggest things for me too. So now that I'm focused on certain types of investors, now I can tell a much clearer story and kind of get to the answers much quicker. And that's a big lesson for me too. I learned through this process is the timing of talking about fundraising and closing to get to the yes or no, whatever that is. So moving that conversation along faster so you're not wasting time, which you could be using to execute with the right people that are actually interested.
Why do you think people let things linger? Founders let things linger.
It's just tough. So, if somebody seems interested and you have no money, what are you going to do? So you kind of have to in a way, but there are definitely ways to kind of push things along much faster and smoother. Those are the big lessons I've learned through this process.
Yeah.
It's still learning. I mean, to be frank, it's not like I'm some fundraising master. I'm still in the middle of a round.
Yeah, and I don't like to get too obsessed with fundraising because you had to do so much right to get to the point to have those conversations that, the best thing to do is build a great business.
Yeah, and that's definitely what I try to stay focused on is this. Like, how do we make this just so amazing that it's undeniable?
Yeah.
So that's where I think we're at and where we're going to continue to go. This is our newest update, and we have our next update coming, ways to enhance this kind of coming all staged out along the way. And as this non-sugar kind of category starts moving and you have Nestle's, these giant super houses, bringing in ingredients and new options into this type of a space that just enhances the availability for things that we could put into our products that taste good and get us closer and closer to that kind of, traditional ice cream, which like your Haagen-Dazs and Ben & Jerry's type thing.
So that's interesting. So the idea there a little bit is like the pie, the big guys coming in grows the pie in both probably awareness in the market and all these, and availability of inputs, ingredients. But you still have to, that's why it's so critical for the brand, because you still have to stand out in that crowded market.
Exactly. So we're living and dying on innovation. So I'm a food scientist. My operations guy is like an R&D specialist. So we're obsessed about these ingredients. And we have a very, very strong supply chain of like the biggest, best type of producers out there. And that's something we pride ourselves on. That's what we think is our unfair advantage, is being able to move fast into these spaces and to get people to, love our products because of that. And we're trying to bring the fun into it and everything like that with the brand, but that's very key for us.
Yeah, and the point is you're obsessed with it.
Yeah,
I mean, it's like,
absolutely.
if you're talking about your obsession.
Never satisfied.
Never satisfied, yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So yes, I think that's a great point, is if you focus on this and your people, that's going to take you a long, long ways, and hopefully everything else kind of falls into place. Obviously, you have to focus on being very, very professional with how you do everything else. But
obviously,
if you're not focused on this, like you're gonna die.
Yeah, this is the thing.
This is the thing. Yeah,
you have to focus on all the things, but this is the real thing.
This is the real thing. Don't lose sight of it. That's a very good piece of advice.
What's the toughest decision you've had to make?
The toughest decision. I'm still in the middle of one. It's hires for me right now. So, a key role for us is sales. So that's obviously a huge part of what we're doing. I'm currently the best salesman for the company. I'm the founder. I can talk about these products all day long. So these key accounts love hearing, my story and how I did this and everything like that, and how we're innovative and how we're bringing these new products to market. But, it's getting to the point where I have to start flipping the switch here and becoming that CEO and stop getting my fingers in everything else and trusting other people to do it. So the biggest hole right now would be I've outsourced people and I have brokers and everything like that to manage our sales, but we need that one person internally, and it's my next key hire to do this. And each key hire it's been a tough one for sure. It's always, stage fit's huge. Somebody could have the best resume in the world, and I've experienced this firsthand, especially on the sales side. But it doesn't necessarily mean they're the right fit for your company right now. It could be when you're 10 million in sales, 30 million in sales, or something like that. But finding that right person that has that same hustle to go out there and, every weekend do a farmer's market, somebody like that with that sales mentality, that's what I'm looking for next. So the hiring part, building the team is kind of the biggest stressors for me.
I want to say, can you say that again?
I've went back and forth on it so many times. I've done recruiters, all sorts of things, almost hired some people and pulled back and relied on advisors and brokers and things like that, and just staying involved myself. And that one's tough.
Yeah, what did you say? The phrase you used, which size what fit? Size?
Stage fit.
Stage fit.
Yeah,
stage fit.
That's
stage fit. Employees with good stage fit.
And I got that term. I got to give credit to Matt Price. He's been helping me out. Yeah, it's a Matt thing.
It's a Matt thing.
So Matt Price has been helping me with my corporate development. That's one I got from him. It's been, it rings so true.
Yeah, I love it.
I say it in different ways, but I like that those two specific words make a lot of sense to me.
Well, and both them and you. You have to be at the right stage to manage those people.
Exactly. So it's an awkward transition. So as I try to become the CEO pretty soon here, right now I'm responsible for my stakeholders, whether that's my employees or the people that are involved in investors. So that's a big switch for me to kind of get my hands off of this side, and my operations manager is managing most all of this now and all the logistics. So pulling back to what is technically my expertise and focusing on being a CEO. So giving my employees the right tools and taking care of my stakeholders. That's a big switch and a very big challenge.
Absolutely, for everybody, just so you know, very common. What's your current thinking on hiring, on what you're going to try to do for this next big hire?
So, it's all about the attitude. I almost don't even care about the resume. So sure, you have to understand some stuff about the space, but I almost don't even care about that. And I've heard people say that in the past, and it's so true for me right now. And I've got a couple people that I know are just like dogs that'll get out there, won't take no for an answer, kind of like I did when I first started trying to get sales going. Just go, and no quitting them basically. So that's what we need right now. That's kind of hustle. So like we said, I say it's easy to get in the stores. We need that person to make sure we're like the best partner possible for these buyers, to be undeniable essentially, so we can continue our growth, bring extra flavors in, just be the right partner. We need somebody extremely hands-on and laser focused on making that all happen.
Good luck. I hope that works out. It's hard.
We've got a couple good ones actually, so I'm feeling good about it.
Nice. Well, you have a magnet. You mentioned that you had your first kiddo. during sort of the really early startup phase. I know you had your second kiddo recently. Liz is working, your wife's working and supporting. How have you balanced? You talk about balancing the roles of CEO role and all these things. How have you balanced the parent?
Oh, terribly. Actually, I would have to say I'm doing pretty good. I think I'm doing okay. You can talk to my wife about this. It's probably a different story, but I really do try to shut things down at like 5 o'clock to bedtime for the kids. And I try to be a family man at that point. And then if I have to clean some things up at night with work or whatever, I can do that. But obviously I have to be a good husband too. So I really do try to shut things down. And when I'm with my kids or my wife, I try to focus on that. I'm not trying to be on the phone. I'm not sitting with my laptop thinking about. So I might be thinking about things, but I'm trying to be as engaged as possible. So I'm really, really trying to focus on it. I'm by far not even close to perfect with that, but I am putting a true effort into it. Yeah. And I think it's paid dividends.
And I think the intentionality is a big part of it.
Yeah. I think my wife sees that too. I'm not perfect, like I said, but she knows I'm trying. We talk about it openly. She knows what I'm trying to do, and that things are a struggle. And it's it does cause some tension here and there, but we tried to think like, okay, what's the right time to have kids? And always like, there's no right time. We'll figure it out. Well, we'll be able to feed them. We have ice cream.
I have ice cream. I'm always just impressed by people who really do hold all that, and I don't necessarily see a correlation between people who like put familyness off for business. It probably it's just different. So. Okay, we only have a couple minutes left. So, what is a piece of advice? What is like the best piece of advice that you could think of that somebody else gave you?
Who to trust? I have to go back to that stage fit thing. It's extremely relevant right now. So back to the kind of that talk about making sure the right people are on the team at the right time. Yep. And it could be that person's only right for a certain amount of time, and be aware of that and make that very intentional and let people know that's kind of the way it is. So cool. I think the stage fit thing, I can't harp on that enough. Like whether you're small or you're getting pretty big, like that's so important.
I see that with several companies I work with right now, for sure. What do you think most founders aren't scared of that they should be scared of?
Aren't scared of their idea. Everybody's in love with their own idea, of course, and it's almost in a way kind of easy to come up with ideas, but executing on them is really, really tough. So I'm sure you could probably come up with a great ice cream idea. You could probably look at the category, look at the numbers, and you could have a great idea, but how are you going to execute on that? So
I'm not.
You better have like some unfair advantage of how you're going to take that great idea, because it probably is a good idea, but you can't be too married to your ideas and just go all in forever and lose it all, essentially. So I've always tried to be aware of that. I've talked openly with my wife about that. Like, if we don't get to this, we need to consider shutting this thing down. I'm not going to drag this on forever and hope for the best. Like, just be extremely intentional with this whole thing. So,
So some people
be aware that your ideas might not be the best, or the path that you think for your idea may not be the best, and you can rely on what other people think about stuff too.
Well, that seems so hard to hold that objectivity and also the passion to keep fighting the daily battles.
Yeah, and I'm an eternal pessimist, so I'm kind of a weird one to start a food company, probably in a weird way. But also, I think it's helped me to kind of stay objective to the path that I'm on and the things that we're doing. Hence the pivot that we did. I mean, I still think a protein-specific ice cream has legs. We could still do that, but
we didn't really cover that. That's where you really started.
Yeah,
we mentioned it. Started protein-specific.
Yeah, and I could have, my heart wanted me to kind of keep doing both lines and have, kind of this and that, but just stayed laser focused on what was kind of the obvious opportunity. So my original idea died technically. Yeah.
But that's an example.
Willing to give that up.
you say you went sort of the obvious direction, but for a lot of people, it wouldn't have been so obvious.
Yeah,
they would have told themselves a story.
Yeah, very true.
Of why to keep doing it. Yeah.
And I just kind of, at that point, so we're kind of keto focused right now, and at the end of the day, we're Killer Creamery. This is a sugar-free ice cream, but that's the major movement we're on. Yeah. The ketogenic side, we're super involved in the space. We actually go to the events. We're well networked with the space. We're involved with a group called Max Love that does. We give them ice cream essentially and donate to their events and things like that. And it's a group that they essentially do ketogenic diets therapeutically for kids with cancer. So a lot of cancers thrive off high sugar. So going to a ketogenic diet, kids can go to remission or at least control cancer. So kind of nuts. And ice cream, of course, is one thing that brings happiness everywhere. So it's like the perfect thing for kids.
It's definitely brought happiness.
Yeah, so it was a space that I was not like at all interested in, because thinking like fad diets, all that type of stuff. But once I started understanding what this side of the anti-sugar movement, keto specifically was all about. I mean, it just clicked for me that this is a great place to go. And there was a lot of unknowns. I mean, didn't know that's going to be a big trend. Like I had a feeling it was going to be, but didn't know it was going to pop off kind of like it did. So we did find ourselves at the right place in the right time. And I think luck is definitely part of this whole thing, but you got to put yourself out there to, sound corny, but to find that luck, you got to be out there doing your thing, or else you're not going to get lucky. So,
Well, I can't think of a better way to end it. So where can people find you? Stores and online and such?
yeah, so online we sell direct to consumer all across the country, Amazon, and through our website. We're in pretty much all the Albertsons, Fred Meyer's locally, Winco's, Boise Co-op. And then, depending on where you're at in the country, just go to our store locator and boom, you'll find the spot.
Right on.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can eat some ice cream.
Yeah, let's do it.
Let's do it.
Gonna have to.
Let's do it.